Hello, everyone. My name is Kathy Brooks, and welcome to another episode of We Will Survive. While the Black community has celebrated the end of Trump's reign over the United States, we must remember that Trump got over 70,000 votes. That means a great number of Americans are either racist or feel that racism is not a deal breaker for them. We must also remember that the win was not overwhelming, and it was Black women who made the difference at the end. I'm not going to be before you very long today. I just wanted to speak to you a little bit about the State of the Union as it regards women. I was just looking at a news program where they were looking at the results of the election, and they said that the two largest minority groups were Blacks at 13.4% and Latinos at 18.5%. Now, I may not be the brightest person, but somehow it has been determined that women at 50.8% of the United States population are a minority. Now, how do you get over 50% and still be a minority? I'm not really sure. So, in my opinion, women should have some power in this country. Women should be considered when laws are passed, especially laws that pertain specifically to women. So, as of today, the Republicans have appointed 6 of the 9 justices of the Supreme Court. What that means is that the country has a judicial leaning toward conservatism. That is regardless of the views of the people and the laws that will affect those people. I said to you that Republicans have determined to have a conservative Supreme Court. That has been a mission for quite a while. And it's not for reasons that people talk about, quite frankly. Um, the newest appointee to the Supreme Court was not even qualified to be a Supreme Court justice. Amy Coney Barrett, excuse me, filled, and quite frankly, the filling of the seat of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg was quick. It was very swift. It was because the Republicans determined that they could do what they wanted to do, and they did. Because the last year of Barack Obama's presidency, seat became empty, and they determined that he should not be able to fill it during his last year as president. So even shorter period of time, at the death of Justice Ginsburg, a seat was made empty very recently, and the Republicans very quickly filled it with someone who wasn't even qualified. So they, obviously have social dissonance, meaning that their behavior and the things that they say are not the same. They don't go together. They say whatever they want to say as it pertains to Democrats, and they do whatever they want to do as it pertains to Republicans. All right, so she has a lifelong position. She has tenure. Yeah. So many people actually voted for Donald Trump because he said he is pro-life. Now, I don't know if he's pro-life, but it's hard for me to believe that he has any religious feelings or dealings, because when I saw him twirling the Bible around and not knowing which side was up, it showed me that maybe he doesn't read it on a regular basis. And when he said 2 Corinthians, I said he probably never been to church, because I've never heard anybody say that in my entire life. So I wouldn't look for him for spiritual leadership. I wouldn't. So I just want to talk a little bit about that. Not him not being Christian, because that's kind of a real thing. Everybody knows that. Pro life is what I want to discuss. Many of the people in the United States are pro life, but not the majority of people. But pro-lifers count, right? They have an opinion and they have a right to their opinion, but their opinion, in my opinion, should not affect anyone other than themselves. So if they don't believe in abortion, it's a really simple thing that they have to do. When they get pregnant or when they get someone pregnant, they should not have an abortion. Yeah, if they get sick and they're pregnant and the doctor says you're not strong enough, so it's either you or the baby that survives, and they're so strongly pro-life, they should say, let me die and let the baby live without a mother. That's what they should do. It's real simple, in my opinion. Um, so they believe that life begins at conception. So if they believe um, that life begins at conception, when, in their opinion, does it end? When does life end? It would appear that the pro lifers are less interested in those same lives once they are actually born, once they are outside of the mother's body. The Republicans overwhelmingly do not agree with social services or entitlement programs. They do not seem bothered at all with police brutality. They do not seem to be bothered at all by poverty. They did not seem to be bothered even by the fact that there are cities in this country with water that is too filthy to drink and remain healthy. These same people who are pro life, they're very quiet on these issues. So they don't seem to be very loving people. They seem to be very opinionated people. And those same people, the pro life people that will protest outside of Planned Parenthood, that, and let me just say for a minute, Planned Parenthood does more than abortion. I went to Planned Parenthood at the age of 17. I went there because the town that I was living in at the time did not have a hospital. I did not have a doctor there. I went there because I was feeling ill. They took care of me. I went there, and the treatment was so good that when I went back to Philadelphia, I found a Planned Parenthood and I continued to go there until I moved out of that area. Um, I didn't go there and have an abortion, but they did a whole lot of stuff for me, and it was on a sliding fee scale. So initially, I was able to get treated for like $20. It was very, very helpful to me. And so the people who think that you only go there to have an abortion, they're very misled. They're just straight up wrong. Okay. And so those people who think that Planned Parenthood only do abortions, those same people, when they see the doctors get out of their cars and walk the to the building, they will shoot and kill the doctor. That's why I asked the question, when does life end? Because if you're pro life, then you should be pro that doctor's life also. No? Or pro the life of everybody who goes in to a Planned Parenthood, because they only seem to think about Planned Parenthood. Do you know there are other places that actually perform abortions? Hmm. But they're like stuck on Planned Parenthood. They don't know anything about it. They've never been there. And they're just woefully ignorant, in my opinion. Um, so I was discussing this with my sister. And while these people are so against abortion, um, it has been around in some form or fashion since forever. During slavery, the enslaved um, women used, they weren't, obviously they weren't doctors, but they were people who practiced medicine. And these people actually knew a lot about herbs and different things that we use today, actually, to help us um, to feel better without using drugs. So they would go to that person and they would go out in the garden and pick certain herbs and things like that that would induce essentially an abortion. This was not just done for the other enslaved women, but it was also done for white women because women have always wanted to plan their family. It is disheartening to think that a woman would be pregnant and have to go through with having a baby and being a mother if she doesn't want to. And so, if abortion becomes illegal again, women are still going to have an abortion. And I don't think that the conservatives of this country care if Latinos have an abortion. The problem is they're not having their abortions. Latinos statistically are overwhelmingly Catholic. The Catholic Church does not believe in birth control or abortion, right? And so those people um, who follow the catechism and the leadership of the Pope, they too do not believe in birth control or abortion. So they will have a larger family just because of those two things. So right now, their population in the United States is growing, which is why Mr. Trump was so interested in building the wall. Now, the wall is not really going to keep anybody out because there was a picture in the news last week where somebody was crawling over the wall. So clearly, people can climb over a wall, and they've had tunnels since forever. And I know that. And if I know that, other people know it too. So the wall is really just to get your attention off of the whole situation. So their demographics have changed. They're now 18.5% of the United States population. Whites are 60.1%. That's down from 74%, and was even higher before that. We have not yet gotten the results of the 2020 census because they're calculating that. So this is as of 2019. Um, Black women are not having large families, but they want to stop that also because we've gone from being 12% to being 13.4%. So those two demographic groups are growing where the white demographic is not growing, it is lessening. And that is a problem for white people because if it continues in this fashion, then they will no longer be a majority group. Now, the United States actually created white people as a way to be the majority. At one point in the United States history, there were Italians, Irish, German, French, Spanish. Like everybody was a representative of their home country, but nobody was actually a majority except the enslaved people. And nobody wanted the enslaved people to have more constitutional power than, excuse me, Europeans. And another thing that was happening at the same time is that the different European groups were fighting each other in the middle of the streets with knives, and they were killing one another. And somebody who was actually quite bright thought, we have to get this done with. We have to get these people together. And they did so by instituting public education. And in the beginning of the school day, you stand up and you pledge allegiance to the United States. So they were no more the English, the French, the German, whatever. They were Americans. And eventually they started calling themselves white people. And then the enslaved were black people. And then you can count them as two different demographics as opposed to, all the chopped up, you know? And so it's the same thing as they do with blacks. Blacks in the United States include people from Jamaica, people from Haiti, people from the continent of Africa, and all of the countries that have traveled here that they are no longer allowing to come and live in the United States. Yeah, that's not happening right now. Um, Latinos are it's a huge group of people, first of all. It's Central America, it is some of the islands, and also South America. So they represent a lot of people. And that's why he has a problem or had a problem, or I don't know if he still has a problem, because right now I think he's thinking about himself. But during that 4 years that we enjoyed his presence, he was thinking about losing his power as a citizen of the United States. He lied to his followers and said that Democrats wanted to have an open border. No one has ever said that. No one has ever said that. All you have to do is read. That's all you have to do. Listen to people when they talk and then read and learn stuff. But nobody said that we wanted an open border. But what he was trying to do is manipulate those numbers so that the white uh, demographic grew and the Latino decreased and the black decreased, and so they could keep their power as the majority in the United States. If it were just that white women if white women were still having a lot of kids, they would be doing their part to continue the white race, as it were, and nobody would have a problem with abortion. But since people stop having 10 kids, people have to manipulate the situation. Um, Blacks have abortions. I'm not going to pretend that black people don't have abortions, but not at the same rate that white women are having abortions. And by the way, I think that anybody who has an abortion has the right to do what they want to do with their own body. I certainly don't think men have the right to tell women what to do with their bodies, in my opinion. I know that the evangelicals apparently follow Trump because of this, but it's not that simple. Uh, they're in the pockets of a lot of people who want things to go back to the way that it used to be. I'm not going. I don't know about you guys. I'm not going. Um, so white women, in fact, are really the target of the pro-life groups. At least the not the demonstrator, but the powers that be, the support, the Supreme Court, the presidents, the Republicans. They just want white women to have kids. And they haven't thought anything about how the economy has changed or anything like that, and how people, back in the day, the mother was able to stay home and take care of the children in the home because the man was able to make enough money to sustain the family. But our economy today, before the pandemic, our economy did not afford most people, the luxury of staying home. And so people have to go to work. Also, back in the day, there was no child care to consider. So, because women were home. And so, being that childcare is something that you have to consider and that it costs so very much, then people can't do that. So, people have to work. Women have to work. Men have to work. And so, people cannot afford to have the large families that they used to have. They just can't afford it. It's just not a realistic goal. When I was in high school, my intention was to graduate high school, get married, and have 10 children. My mother said that was not a really good goal. And so she said I had to go to college, which changed the trajectory of my life, which I'm not mad about. I wanted to have 10 children. I love children. But could I afford 10 children? Most likely not. I can't do it now. So I don't know. But the whole point of me coming here to talk to you was to let us not get comfortable because we won one election. Let us not get comfortable and kind of sit back and rest in our laurels. Let us still put feet to the fire, and advocate for equal rights. Advocate for the people um, who cannot speak for themselves. Let us advocate for women. Let us advocate for the poor. Let us advocate for the minority groups. Of course, when I talk to you about my group, the Black group. We have been through so much through the years, um, in the United States. So I'm going to advocate for women and for Black women. It is my interest group. Let's not be comfortable. Let's keep it going on. They need to get people in the Senate who are not conservative, because I think they misunderstand what conservative is. Conservative is small government, meaning that the government is not all in your business. But if you're telling the government to tell us that we have to, you have to make a woman who got raped have a child by that rapist because of your beliefs, that's problematic. That's problematic. When you're telling a woman who has an option of either ending her life or ending the child of her unborn, that's problematic that you don't even think she has the right to continue to live and you want that baby to live with no one to take care of it. So we have to continue to advocate. Amy Coney Barrett, was that last little uh toward ending pro choice. Um, my belief is that if we are supposed to be a country that has free will, then that means pro choice. So that is just what I wanted to talk to you a little bit about today. I won't go on and belabor the point. I just don't want us to go to sleep. Stay woke, stay focused. Let's go.